Hi, my name is Vasanta. Welcome to my YouTube channel where we use the power of Vedic Astrology so you can make better choices in your life. So today we're going to give you an overview of the month of December and how the astrological weather and panorama is shaping out. Congratulations, we made it out of the debilitation of Jupiter, which was quite dreadful for a few months there. When Jupiter goes into debilitation, all the sattva or all the goodness, the expansion, the mercy, you can say the higher self of consciousness goes out the door, and we tend to explore other more materialistic endeavors, and also we experience austerity. So now that Jupiter has gone into Aquarius, we're going to have a much better panorama. We've been talking about this in the astrological circles that beginning of 2020, throughout 2020, 2021, it was going to be a really tough time. And we have seen it due to the pandemic and restrictions. But now as Jupiter has gone into Aquarius, the general and overall panorama of everything is getting better. So as we go into the month of December, we're still not out of the woods, and I consider that it was going to be very important to put the video out early on in the month, because we have a lot of activity in the sphere of Scorpio, since we're going to have a few conjunctions there in this sign. So let's get right to it. I'll be explaining day by day so that you can have a better panorama of what's going on. What you will see here in the video, I have marked some days in red. So the days in red are the days that you have to be careful. And then the days in green are going to be tending to be very excellent days for performing activities that are auspicious. And then the days in black just tend to be neutral days, or days of maybe no concern really. The days in red, though, you gotta watch out. In this endeavor, from last month, we are together with my team at vasantadas.com. We're gonna be putting out a monthly calendar that is printable in a PDF file. So if you want that calendar, I will tell you, day by day, according to the titis or the lunar days, what day is good to start a business, in what day you should do contracts, what day to avoid making important decisions, when to purchase things, when to hold religious ceremonies. It has the compilation of the holy days of the month, auspicious days of the month, and then days to watch out. So a little bit like this, it also has red days and green days, and day by day it'll tell you what is auspicious to make. So if you want a copy of that calendar, link down below is you can go to my website, vasantadas.com, and there you will find a button that says, subscribe to the mailing list, and you can download the calendar directly into your computer, then print it out using throughout the month. It's a very useful tool. We've got thousands of wonderful good reviews all over the world for it. So before it was a paid service, now we've decided together with my team to make it a free service for all. The month starts out very intensely. You will see it in the news that there's many manifestation towards governments imposing restrictions. I think the restrictions do come back on. We have the north node of the moon, which is Rahu in Taurus, so that speaks to us about structures. But those structures are based on values and comfort. So, there's going to be that tendency to seek in what way we can be comfortable with our new situation and adapt. But then we still have Saturn in Capricorn, which can be auspicious but very heavy. So I think the policy of the government is still going to be in place very strongly as we are trying to clear out of the pandemic. So especially in depending on the waves, but I think mostly the countries are going to be clearing out from COVID. The recuperation seems to be in place since Jupiter goes positively into Aquarius and Pisces. But nevertheless, Saturn being in power in Capricorn is still restricting, so the government is using the restrictive power they have. We have a bunch of planets over there in the water signs, being the Sun, Mars, Mercury and Ketu. So there's a lot of energy, unconscious energy stored up that has to be liberated. As we go into the month, in November, we already have the conjunctions of planets in points of irritation, I would say. But, pertaining December, we're going to have right on the 1st that the moon is going to conjunct Mars in Libra. So, right at the beginning, there's still going to be dialogue, what can we make better? There's still dialogue going on. There's still diplomatic measures going on. But then as we go into the month, we have the Mars-Moon conjunction in Vishaka. So that is already entering Scorpio. So on the 1st, from the 1st to the 3rd, it starts being, diplomatically it begins. The crowds and the negotiations are going to be going on in peace. But then towards the 3rd, the moon does enter Scorpio, and it conjuncts there with Sun, Mercury, Ketu. So that is a very intense. So throughout that day, preparing towards the eclipse, they say that usually 3 to 4 days before the eclipse, you will feel the energy fall. And then like 3 days after, you will start feeling the energy rise. So that's going to be a very intense period where things from the past are going to be boiling up, and trapped emotions are going to be boiling up. Whether we let those emotions, be in anger or discharged in anger, or whether we decide to use the power of encouragement, right? To come out of this, I would say, crossing this battlefield that the first few days of the month are going to bring over. The dangerous days are, of course, 3rd and 4th. And on the 4th, we have the total solar eclipse. And the moon is in Gandanta, and it's also the dark moon, which is Amavasya. So there's no light. The moon is crossing the pain point between a water sign and a fire sign, which will be Sagittarius. So the situation is very aggravated emotionally. The sun and the moon conjunct completely in the constellation of Dhanishta. So remember that Dhanishta, the sign for Dhanishta, is the umbrella. So why the umbrella? Because umbrella stops rain, and remember that emotion is depicted as water. So remember also that kindness and feeling is the key to the month. Have kindness, compassion, ahimsa, or non-violence is going to be super important, but you will have to cover probably the fears rising in the people around you, especially the young people, the elderly, and women are very prone to get very scared very quickly. So usually the job of the male force in nature and of other strong women is also to somehow accommodate and be empathic on the reactions of people. Again, there's going to be a lot of overreaction during this month emotionally. It's very interesting that the eclipse happens in the Dhanishta nakshatra, which is also the nakshatra of superiority, leaders, and the eldest people in the family or in the tribe. So yes, during this time we're going to be looking towards our elders, towards our political leaders, towards our social leaders, our spiritual leaders, for answers on what to do. So, my hope is that during the eclipse, what will happen is that one of the leaders will not lose the composure and go trigger happy. And then we could have a conflict that could definitely scale. So those are the days to take care of. Then after that, of course, we still have, a few days after the eclipse. Mostly the eclipse is going to be dark. So on those days, what is recommended is that while the eclipse is going on, we should fast. If you cannot fast completely, then at least just try to do fruits. And it's also recommended that you don't drink a lot of water. I would say, better take it easy. All of this is to reduce the passion, right, inside of oneself, so that we will not be prone to overreact during the eclipses, which naturally our mind gets clouded. It's like having, when you have your car and then there's a lot of water, rainwater falling on you, you cannot see clearly, or if there's fog, you cannot see clearly. So the same thing happens during eclipses. There's a blockage of the light by smoke. So it's like fog, and we tend to overreact, sometimes in this case in a rather explosive emotional way. So what is recommended during that day is, I personally experienced this with my guru, that he would call us all to the hall to do kirtan, and which is congregational prayer. So we get together, we sing mantras, we chant mantras, and we pray together. And after the eclipse is over, then, everybody goes back to their activities. So if you want to know what's the best thing to do, I would say 3rd and 4th, if you're able to just remain indoors and just do prayer and not have a lot of very important activities or interactions on that day, that is much better. Then Mars enters Scorpio on the next day. So Mars will be aspecting in a bit there. One house before Mars has been aspecting Saturn, and then it'll go out of that aspect. Mars will aspect Jupiter. So once this conjunction is made, this aspect is made between Mars and Jupiter, we're going to hear a lot more about the metaverse and cryptocurrency creeping in. So technologically, I think we're going to have an acceleration during that time. So I think maybe these devices for the virtual world are going to start being pushed over the holiday season really, really strongly. Maybe it has to do also a lot with the movie The Matrix. So there's going to be a lot of controversy between virtual reality, NFTs, the way that we make and assess value these days. So all of that dialogue is going to be going on during that month. And also I think there's going to be a lot of streaming war, the war of the streaming services. So by then, things are going to be getting very dense when it comes to trying to push product, I think, on the people. And, there's going to be a lot of dialogue on how technology is affecting us, etc. But there's like this impulse or this passion, to push product into people. So I think the next thing are these goggles that they're going to start trying to push into people, at a rather low rate, so that people can start meeting at home. And there's going to be campaigns for this. Although I tend to think that the Facebook company is not going to take it over. I think they're not going to succeed because they've launched their Meta company on very bad astrological terms. I think they'll tend to fail. But somebody else will rise up to the challenge and take the cake. So we're going to start seeing that. Then on the 7th, Venus will conjunct Sagittarius, so that it will conjunct the moon in Sagittarius. So that's pretty good. I think the wave of positivity is going to come back then. Inspiration, positivity, joy, encouragement, to try to see the positive within the negative. Then we go on the motions of what has been the last 1.5 to 2 years, which is Saturn conjuncts the moon in Capricorn. So at that time, I think more centeredness, feet on the ground, and also Venus moves into Capricorn on that day. So the 8th seems to be a day where stability comes back into play and where emotion is going to be checked a little more. Then Jupiter and the moon conjunct in Aquarius, so that's also going to be very positive. So the positive days are then. It'll be positive for some time until the 14th, which is around the middle of the month comes along. And then we have, again, a call to attention where I think whatever conflict was set in motion in the beginning of the month is going to boil up to a high point. And that's the Mars and Ketu conjunction in the Anuradha nakshatra. It is Ekadashi. So, it is both a very important conjunction. If we use it in material life, we may end up in trouble. But if we use that day for fasting and prayer, which is what we usually do on Ekadashi, then what will happen is it can bring about success because we can keep our passions and our emotions and our overreactions in check. So again, the month is all about keeping our over emotions in check by ahimsa or non-violence and by the power of prayer, what is beautiful. So it is important that the conjunction of Ketu, the south node of the karmic node, the south node of the karmic impulse, and Mars, the planet of war, conjunct in Anuradha, which is, you have it up here, is the lotus flower. They conjunct there, and a lotus flower is the symbol of that which is pure, even if it's muddy, as muddy as the marsh can be. The lotus flower never gets contaminated. So that is the right strategy for the month and to survive, especially day 14. where emotions again are going to be very volatile. Again, during this time, I think it's the strength is coming to let go of the past, of that which is no longer viable in our present, and to try to see in what way we can encourage ourselves and the people that matter in our life towards a future. So it's getting out of survival, but with good force and with good power. So now on the 15th, the sun gladly moves out of Scorpio, and it goes into Sagittarius. And this is going to be, the beginning of the goodness of this very dreadful period we have been going through. It's already better because Jupiter has been gaining power in Aquarius as we speak. But, the sun being lorded by that Jupiter in Aquarius, it will prove to be fantastic. So again, when the sun enters Sagittarius, then that conversation of the metaverse is going to be everywhere. So I think for this holiday season, what is going to be pushed on the world is that it's time to plug into the metaverse and start being part of it. I think that there's going to be a very, very big push into VR, because if Sagittarius is the sign of exploration. I think the other way it could play out is that people are going to start realizing that, reality cannot be made up in that way. And so I think there's a return into spirituality. Oddly enough, after all the suffering, after the rebirth, there is, so to speak, a resurrection. And with this resurrection of humanity, after letting go of the aspects of us that needed to die. And this was like a 2-year process since that dreadful eclipse in Sagittarius in 2020. We've been plunged into this process right now that is culminating in this, in this transition. So it's almost like a part of us had to die so that the new side of us could live. So I think it's like a phoenix month. This is the month where, like you could say a phoenix rises from the ashes in our consciousness and humanity. Then Moon and Rahu conjunct on the 16th in Taurus. That's Krittika nakshatra. So again, it's a sharp nakshatra, and it's a nakshatra that denotes cutting off connections to that which is no longer viable in our lives, and letting our new self be reborn. Then on the 19th, Venus retrogrades in Capricorn, and we have the full moon. So that's Venus retrograding is I think we're going to go back on the policies that we've established to keep ourselves in good economy or sanity. So we're going to be maybe a little bit more willing to spend as the holiday season kicks in, which is before that we will be not thinking so much about spending. I think we'll be very economical. But then as soon as Venus retrogrades, I think we'll be reassessing, what is resources for, what are money for. And then all that week, which is the Christmas week and etc., we're gonna have the Moon Ketu conjunction, and with a close presence of Mars there. Mars and Ketu are no longer conjunct, but there is a presence in proximity. However, the Moon does conjunct Ketu towards the end of December. So if you see between the 19th and the 30th, of course, we have the holiday seasons. And what we're going to be experiencing during that time, of course, is the mysteries. We experience the birth of Christ. But we also remember, right, that he resurrected. He died and he resurrected. And the dialogue that is going to be a lot spoken during that time is, we have the movie The Matrix coming over, which is Matrix Resurrection. So I think that's really going to move the consciousness of people. I'm going to be making a video on it coming right up. We've been making videos on analyzing movies. So that's the next one we're going to analyze before we watch it. What is going to be the main theme. And I think the main theme is psychological control, and what it means to break free and believe in oneself, one's own spirit, but also not naively and not blindly, to reflect and to understand that the potential within each of us has to do with the responsibility we take in our actions, and that actions done in anger don't usually end up well. So, we're trying to understand our capacity for non-violence, our capacity to be like a lotus and not get contaminated by, whatever marshy karma we may be having or experiencing. And also our capacity to encourage others, to embrace others in their challenges emotionally. So overall, a very psychological month. Be careful in your arguments. Be careful in understanding that what you're trying to establish, you're not trying to go to war, or you're not trying to win an argument. We're trying to find a solution and a consensus. So manifesting the opinion is not a bad thing. The use of force is not a bad thing as long as we know where we're going. If we're just overreacting out of fear and we don't know, we don't have a direction where we're going, then we will probably not end up in a good place. So overall, it's a month of transformation. It's a month of personal revolution, letting go of the past, shedding a skin, even to the point where we can say basically it is a month for a resurrection within humanity and within ourselves. So various aspects in the world are going to play out so that we can reflect on these things. So this is all for myself. Do remember that you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and that if you want the monthly calendar, which will help you take better choices during the month, everything is explained day by day. You can download it in my website. The link is down below. So you can subscribe to the newsletter and you will receive the calendar in your email every month. So from my side, this is all. Please expect that we will continue making the videos as guidance every month. And do remember that January is going to be much, much easier. So as we build positive energy forward, do have the confidence that the world is going to be in a better place than it's been in the past 2 years, which have been, in my opinion, two of the most restrictive and toughest years I think in modern history. So we're almost out of it. Now that Jupiter's regained power, all the goodness is going to come back, especially towards April. After April, Jupiter goes into Pisces, and Saturn's going to be going into Aquarius. So it's going to be a whole new world. It's going to be very interesting. All of these months that we're going through, this process in December, it is just a trailer for what is there to come. So it's very, very good to practice ahimsa or non-violence. My advice: practice prayer, selfless love, encouragement, hold hands with the people that are there with you, you're near and dear, and embrace each other, encourage each other, and of course try to embrace the lotus feet of your elders and of the wise people in your community. Try to take their advice. Their experience can guide you through the inevitable moments of crises. And finally, try to always be in prayer and remember that what is best in you is your goodness, your capacity to serve and love, and nobody can take that away from you. So there's nothing to fear. Your connection with God is always present, and God is always ready to accept love and the goodness that emanates from us. So that is the stance. I think that is the resurrection, to realize that one can love, that one can serve, and that one is willing to give the best in oneself for the betterment of others. Maybe that means your small community, or maybe that means the world at large, which reminds me that the dialogue on climate change is there. So remember that you have capacity, and that it's not, we won't change the world massively, but we can change the world within our heart and within our mind, and that this is enough because it sets forward a chain reaction. So let's see in what way the universe is going to be speaking to us. From my side, I pray that Shrimati Radharani, the goddess of love, may be with you, and that she may bless the world with kindness and compassion during this month. Radha Radha.